Welcome to Shareholders of a Better World, brought to you by TBLI Group. At TBLI Group, we have an established reputation as an organization dedicated to building the ecosystem of global sustainability and impact investing. We're doing this through educating, advising, and facilitating transactions in global sustainability and impact business, as well as capital solutions for private companies, family offices, and fund groups. For nearly 25 years, TBLI Group has created a vertically integrated ecosystem of education to action through TBLI conferences and TBLI consulting. More about our company can be found at tbligroup.com. This webinar is brought to you by TBLI Foundation, which hosts educational learning experiences dedicated to a better planet. Through the foundation, we build sustainable communities by sharing the people and the experiences making a difference to so many of our lives around the world. Our weekly podcasts bring impact thought leaders that are doing and not only chatting. Now let me introduce my guest today. My apologies. my microphone on mute. For those of you who haven't joined before, if you need to send a private direct message to someone, just move your mouse over their name. Window will pop up. You can send them a message. And if you have a comment or a question, just type it in the lower right-hand corner. We stop exactly at 4 o'clock. Gustaf has to leave then, and then we will start the virtual networking where you'll be connected with someone in the virtual space every 5 minutes for a 5-minute video chat. So for those of you who are not familiar with Gustaf Brandberg and what his family does, they have a family office, Gullspång Invest, and they have been incredibly active in the food technology space, but I'm not going to do the full presentation. I'm going to let Gustaf share his background, what brought him here, what is he doing, what is their ambitions, and how we all can help him. Gustaf, thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me. A short background, then I started out as a programmer. So I have a Master of Science in Information Technology, and I founded a IT consultant company in 1996, 25 years ago. It's still active and is working with Spotify and iSettle and King and all the other tech unicorns in Stockholm. So I think that brought me kind of two things. One is I'm thinking in systems by training. And the other thing is I've got the megalomania virus. When you see companies and startups going from basically nothing to global leaders, and really, really changing the world, you realize that it's possible. So when I started out as an investor 10 years ago or 11 years ago, together with my father, and later on my brothers joined, the idea was to invest in tech companies. So we did that for 4 or 5 years. And then in 2014, I participated in a program with the Stockholm Resilience Center. And they had a partnership with Singularity University. So we had a program with 22 members from all over the Baltic region, an international program, and discussed planetary boundaries, transformations, tipping points. So I got a lot of tools to think in those, how to think about system change. And then we also discussed, exponential technologies, which I already previously was interested in, of course, but we now tend to think about them as transformative innovations, stuff that really can transform the world, where there is a before and an after, and it can go back to the fire or the wheel or the printing press or internet and so on. So I got a few tools there, and then back then I realized how big and in need of change the food system is. I hadn't really thought so much about it, that everyone in the world wakes up hungry every day, and also the negative impact the food system has on the planet at the moment. And then I decided to look into this. So we went from pure tech investors to food tech investors, and one of the first investments was in Oatly, a completely different type of technology that I would have been interested in just a year previously, but they have been tremendously successful, and we have been inspired a lot about how they think about changing the world. And then we've done a few other investments. So I'm the chairman of Nix. We do ice cream and chocolate. That is, the best ice cream and chocolate in the world, and it happens to be sugar-free. And that can really be one of the keys to battle diabetes and obesity and so on. And then a year ago, we decided to do something more in the food space. So we have now set up a team that only works with food investments called Gullspång Re. And we also structured all our thoughts, collected all the scientific reports and everything we could find and had read previously, but then did our own report called Food is Solvable, with our approach on how you can use these transformative innovations, entrepreneurship, risk willing, but also patient capital, because big shifts take time. So the VC fund structure is not always the best way to to back those kind of companies. So we have an advantage there, being a family and being more long term, and then finding these companies that can really accelerate positive shift. So the report is called Food is Solvable, and everyone who's interested in what we're doing can read it and get a better picture. So yeah, that was. I think you're muted. I can't hear you.
My apologies. You said to me once, I remember the quote, I was quite surprised, happily surprised. You said to me, my family has done very well, financially done very well, and we can afford to take big risks, and we will still be able to eat, which I've never heard a family office say something like that, that you see the need for sometimes quite risky moves, like perhaps Oatly at the time. Do you find other family offices with that similar thinking?
I think that kind of thinking you really find in VC funds. So we have been inspired by the best venture capitalists here in Stockholm, Crandom, Northzone, and they're all our friends. And we think they're doing a tremendously good job. We think they focus on the wrong kinds of companies sometimes, but they're really skilled at what they're doing. And I think this, thinking in bets is really important, and the mindset that you can lose all the money if you go into a risky business, but you can only lose all the money. So if the upside is 10x or 100x that we have had in some of our investments, then in the end you will come out on the positive side as a capitalist. And we are capitalists. We also are, we are world citizens, so we are just as worried about climate and what we're doing to this planet as everyone else. And we are parents, so we want to leave something behind to future generations that is in better shape than we took over. So can try to combine all those things into one.
With your new fund, because you said you can take a long-term view, you can patient capital. Are there other investors in this new fund, or is it only funded by yourself, by your family?
First of all, it's not a fund. So it's a fund-like structure, but it's an evergreen. And that's, I think it's extremely important, because both from our perspective, we don't want to have to go for an exit when the company is not ready for that. We do sell our shares in companies, but we want to be able to be long-term at all times. And also because some of these challenges, you don't know how long time it will take to build something of value. And then our best investment in the family we held in for 25 years, at least prior to Oatly, but it was in the same, I think we got 1000x. My father did an investment in 89, 90 in a small company, and they became the global leader in security cameras, so a technology company. And we have been influenced a lot about their culture, a very long-term, very good culture. I served on the board for several years and, tried to learn as much as possible from that company. So first of all, it's not a fund, it's a evergreen structure. And then secondly, the first year we have been funding it ourselves. And now we are raising external money from family offices and institution here in Sweden. So
when I don't know if it was Oatly approached you or you approached Oatly or you bumped into them while you were having a drink at a cafe, how early was that in the development of Oatly? Because I mean, they've been $10 billion.
Yeah, but at that time they were already making an impact and being noticed in Sweden, but they hadn't launched in the US, which kind of was the big risk.
Okay.
And I am well connected in the entrepreneurial networks in Stockholm. And so I was approached by the founders or a representative of the founders who wanted to sell some shares because they have a few other really, really interesting projects going on. And they really go early, like in the research, to do studies. And before these projects are even fundable by an investor, they have been funding it themselves. So they wanted to sell some shares to fund those projects. And my impression is that they had been going around for a while without getting anyone to buy the shares. And I wrote in the we have a document where we put down all the risks and pros and cons and so on. And the shares are a bit expensive at the time compared to how they were doing. But I think they had about $30 million, 30 million euros in sales back then. So it was not really early. They had been going on for 20 years. They were growing a little bit healthy, but they hadn't really reached the hockey stick yet. But what they really had managed to do was to build a very, very loyal customer base. And there was a fight with the Swedish milk industry. And they had to stop use the slogans such as made for milk. No, it's like milk, but made for humans. Mm. And that had a big backlash in social media from Oatly customers, trolling the milk company in Sweden. So I could tell that they were really good at building a rapport with their customers. And that's one competitive advantage when you work with sustainability. People think we are nice people who wants to solve big problems, but we think it's a competitive advantage. You get better, more loyal customers. You get better employees who wants to work with something meaningful. It's a good type of company to invest in just from that perspective.
From the vehicle, not the fund, the evergreen vehicle that you're creating now, what do you look for in a company? Do you only invest in startups? Do you invest in late stage and growth? What are you looking for? What is your ideal company?
When I started out investing, I could invest on a PowerPoint. Now we have our minimum ticket size is about €1 million. Mm-hmm. So, and preferably more than that, which means that we can't go too early and we wouldn't have time to engage with the companies either. So it's mainly growth capital. We do some pre-revenue investments in really promising companies. The most important is the team, of course, and the entrepreneurs. That's the first thing I learned when I started investing, and then it took about 4 or 5 years to get a feeling for what a good entrepreneur is and not. I was really impressed with some people in the beginning that I'm not at all impressed with. So I want to have people who really know their stuff and know the industry they are in, and how their customers think, and really have a clear strategic sense of where they want to take the company. And then of course, they need to have something that they can use as a leverage, usually technology of some sort. Yeah.
And you've chosen for this vehicle the food sector. Yes. Or food innovation, or putting back a soul in food, or slow food or healthy food. Why specifically food? Why did you choose that?
We are three brothers who own Gullspång together, and one of my brothers is involved in energy, so he's driving that leg of the business.
Okay.
And then we have done education and health tech investments as well, because they're also very meaningful. We haven't really had a big success. We have a few promising companies, but we decided that in order to stay really good at what we're doing, we needed to narrow down even further. So now we do energy and food, and I'm totally focused on food. So partly it's because we want to be really a good partner for the companies and know what we're doing. So we want to narrow it down. I mean, the food system is still very, very big, and lots of different, you can't be experts in all parts of the food system. It's huge. I have a personal interest in food and health, which means that I can combine work and life. I don't believe in work-life balance at all, because the slash there in the middle implies that work is not a part of life, which would be terrible. I mean, you spend a lot of time at work, and you just have one life. If you don't do something meaningful, then you should change. Try to find a new job. And then, of course, if you don't solve the food system, you can't solve the sustainability issue with the world. So in the end, it comes down to what we feel is really meaningful right now. It's the only problem we really need to solve is the one planet problem. We only have one planet, and we are using the resources on the planet in a way that's not sustainable. And we tend to see sustainability in a very, very practical term. It's not a moral, or it's not about saving the planet. It's about if it's not sustainable, you can't sustain it. You can't go on doing like we're doing right now. So we need to change. And we should do it fast, because right now we are consuming resources that we really should leave for future generations. And if you put it in that perspective, we are here for 100 years maximum. And then after us, there will hopefully be hundreds of thousands and even millions, or maybe 1 billion years of human life on this planet if we do it right. We can't really steal from the billions of people coming after us, I think, which I think we're doing right now. So there's a combination of interest and something really meaningful, something really fun, and everyone loves food, and everyone wakes up hungry every day. So it's something you can.
Do you focus exclusively on Nordic investments? Because I always hear complaints, there's no deals out there. We can't find any deals. And I always say, where are you looking? Are you looking on Bloomberg? Yeah, okay, you're not going to find it.
Yeah, at the moment, we are doing investments in Europe and US and Israel. In the future, we also want to do investments in Asia. We think the best companies can come from basically anywhere. And there are lots of interesting food tech hubs in the world. And we don't want to be limited to Sweden or the Nordics just because we happen to grow up here.
But how do you find these deals? I mean, are they coming to you, or are you chasing them down, or you have like scouts around the world that are driving it to you?
First of all, I think once again, the advantage of being long-term. So when I started investing in food, I thought this is probably my last investment theme I'm going to follow. So if I do this for the rest of my life, I might get good at it eventually. And then you can have a perspective that our overall tagline is we partner with entrepreneurs to create progress. So the progress part is really important, but the partnership with entrepreneurs is also something we always honor. So partly we get recommendations now we get from the CEO of Oatly and the founders of Oatly and the founder of Nix. If they say that we are good investors, that means a lot for us. So we get quite a few inbound cases from just our reputation and what we've done previously, which is a good reason to behave, I think. And then we do work networks. So we have other co-investors in all our portfolio companies. Mm-hmm. And then we share cases with them, investment opportunities, and they share investment opportunities with us. So step by step, we're building out our network.
There's been about $8 billion invested in these 10-minute home delivery couriers who bring you milk because you forgot to go shopping. I was trying to wrap my head around that when I see problems of obesity, climate change, and that, and 8 billion pouring into this. SoftBank invested in two of them. Have any of them ever approached you?
Yes, of course. I think like one key thing that we always look at is the problem that this company is solving. Yeah. Really, one of the fundamental problems with the food system that needs to be solved. Otherwise, that will really undermine our civilization. So, if we run out of phosphor to put in if the yields go down, so we can't sustain the yields we have, then that will lead to starvation. And if look at what we've done during COVID in terms of shutting down cities, but also protecting ourselves by stopping export of vaccines and so on. That's it's a terrible disease. But it's not threatening civilization in the way. Like if we run out of food, then that could be the trigger for the Third World War. So I hope we won't get there, and I don't think the risk is huge. I'm actually quite optimistic about the future, but we try to look at, is this a really major problem that needs to be solved? And I live in a rich country, and we have our problems, our rich country problems, and there are problems because we live here and we feel those problems. But maybe that's not the most meaningful thing you can go out and solve. There are so many fundamental problems that needs to be solved.
You wrote quite a comprehensive manifesto almost about the mission of Gullspång Re Food. You could see that you spent quite a lot of time in preparing that. So the ambition is not only 10x returns. You can read it from the manifesto very clearly. How long did it take for you to put that together, and how long have you been kind of kicking around the idea? It's quite comprehensive.
I prepared for it, or we prepared our whole lives, I would say. Like as Steve Jobs said in a speech, you can only connect the dots looking backwards, but these are things we've always been interested in. But then it took just a few months to put it together, and we got tremendous help from Therese Dalebrand, who actually wrote the report. So I was more feeding stuff into the process, and then we had maybe 11 revisions. And I think the hard thing was not to, and there are lots of facts, lots of reports, lots of work done. So we don't have to do any research ourselves. We want researchers to do research, and we have a close cooperation with the Stockholm Resilience Center and also with the founder of the National SEP, who already in the 80s, worked with sustainability issues. So 30, 40 years ago. So we build on models that other people have developed. And then the hard thing was, how should we tell this story, this narrative, and who should we make the protagonist of the story? Is it the problems in the food system? Is it the innovations, the entrepreneurs? And we realized, no, it's the shifts. And we actually call it food is solvable, and how entrepreneurs and early stage investors can solve structural problems. But it's not really about solving problems. It's changing them so that the reason the problems are there in the first place go away, which is a way of thinking that I think is really, really powerful once you get it. So there are lots of problems with raising, animal factory farming. And you can go into that and try to solve that by giving them supplements so they don't release as much greenhouse gases, or you can make a Fitbit for cows to make sure cows don't go and die in the middle of a 25,000 cow herd. There are startups working on those problems, but if you solve the root cause problem, that it's a very bad idea to put that many animals in the same place. And if you develop but there are also good reason to put that many animals, because it brings down the price of meat. And meat can, we have had a lack of food and meat and high quality proteins for basically the whole history of humankind. So I understand why we do that, but it's a really bad idea to do that and use all the antibiotics, and you cut down rainforests to produce soy to ship to China and put that in the 750 million pigs they have there and so on. So if you can kind of just get out of that paradigm and make a protein shift to more plant-based, more from the bottom of the food chain instead of the top, then you won't have those problems. You haven't really solved the problems. You just, they disappear. So the whole report is about those paradigm shifts. And we have identified 4, but that means you can slice the event in many, many ways. Mm-hmm. But for our thinking, we have decided that it's the protein shift, it's the healthy diet shift. So, it's a paradox. It's still 800 million people starve, or they get too few calories, and then we have 2 billion people who are overweight, and some of them are undernourished as well. A lot of them. So you get a lot of calories, but not enough nutrients with the food we get in the West. So that's a big problem. And then we have we call it the circular supply chain shift, which is a very broad theme, and it's not like one shift, it's many, many different. And then we have the regenerative farming shift, that we need to produce food so that we build up the capacity to produce food. And at the moment, we are increasing yields and maximizing yields, but we are decreasing the capacity. So that's a really bad idea in the long term. And by definition, unsustainable. So it needs to change.
I'm sure quite a few other family offices or other family offices. Hey, what is that guy doing over there? He seems to be doing quite well. We should chat with him. Do you find that the other family offices that you engage with either say, what are you doing? What is this? Or are they kind of cynical or questioning, or they think, wow, this is a great strategy going forward, we should get on board? Changing minds.
Yes, we have great discussions, and there are many people who have come further in their thinking. And I didn't choose the title of this seminar, like how one family office can transform the food.
We did that. Guilty.
Yeah, because we can't do it alone, and there are many people probably in the audience here who is doing just as much or more. So no, has to be a movement, and we think we want to influence others, and we want to learn from others, and we have realized that families is really good. You can have a discussion whether or not it's good that some people accumulate a lot of wealth, and while there's still a lot of poor people in the world. But one advantage is that we can think very long term, and if we go to VC funds, we have actually really, really good VC general partners who say they want to invest in ReFood because they really believe, from a personal standpoint, they believe that what we're doing is really important. But their funds are not into sustainability. They invest in things that are, driving the world the other way. Mm. And for me, that's I can understand it, because they are not as wealthy as some of the families we speak to, and they want to become wealthy for some reason, and you can accept that. But I for me, it's really strange. If you have come to that insight as a person, why don't you want to align what you do in your work settings? Because they have been very successful in doing what they've been doing up to now, and so they haven't have the courage yet to change. So I think it's more fruitful to discuss with long-term foundations, families, everyone who has a longer perspective than just the next fund or the next quarter. Yeah.
And do they like the idea that it's one evergreen, that it's not a fund structure, it's more of a kind of holding structure? Does that appeal to them, or do they say, why don't you?
Yes, and we were a bit surprised, and we didn't know how that would be received. For us, it's a really big step to raise money and invest other people's money. And it's kind of nice to only risk your own money, especially when you take big bets. If you lose your own money, that's your problem, and you don't have to, worry so much. But if you lose other people's money, that's a different story. And we decided to try to go for an unusual vehicle. And the easy thing would have been to just set up a fund like everyone else. And the way we have done it, it means that we are not, many institutions can't invest in us because they're not allowed. They don't have the mandate to go outside, the norm. But what really, really made me happy was the ones we now have as lead investors. They really liked what we're doing and really understand why we want to do it in that way. So, and really align with us on the purpose. And also are also really good at themselves at sustainability and a good network, so they can help us in that sense.
Do you find that you spend more time in discussions with other asset owners about getting involved in this movement rather than managing the fund?
No, we are entrepreneurs at heart, and a lot of the entrepreneurs we invest in, they reach out to us, and that's also always our top priority. So if someone has something they want to discuss, we don't go in the operations of the companies. I did that in the beginning, and it's a terrible idea to be an investor and then try to take sales calls and recruit people. You can do that as a business angel, but then you really have to be on the inside for a while. But now we invest in much better entrepreneurs that we can ever be. But we don't do that. But we always, we are available for the management teams in the companies we invest in, and that's our top priority. And then we do the other stuff when we have time. But it's a risk, and I think that's an advantage of not having external money, is that you can focus 100% on helping the companies and looking for the next investment and sourcing deals.
But now you are accepting external money, so you'll have to also you have to show returns probably, I guess, because do they have as long time frame as you? Because people say long term. I remember giving a lecture to a Dutch pension fund, and it was 3/4 of a day. And the whole day they kept running back to their screens. I said, I thought you invest for 30 years. Yes. Why do you keep looking at the screen?
Exactly. No, that was funny, because when I started out investing and someone asked me, are you long-term? And I said, yes, we're long-term. And I said, what's long-term for you? Is it 5 years? And it's 7 years? And I didn't really, I hadn't thought about it. And I said, well, I founded my company 15 years ago, and I don't have any plans of selling. And then we have had this company for 20 years, and we're not planning to sell it. So I don't know but one thing we have realized also, that you're not always the best owner, and many families, they stick to their companies for too long. And also maybe because their father or grandmother founded it, and for this is a huge part of the family and the family story. And we tried not to be that attached to the companies, because we also, our first question is always in every situation, what's best for the company? And sometimes it's, you can find a better owner for the company, and then we're open to discuss. But this is always done in discussions with the founders, and we try to align our time horizon with them. And also, our first major exit I was involved with was this company, Axis Communications, security cameras, and we were shareholders for 25 years, and then we were approached by Canon, the Japanese company, and their chairman and CEO actually came to see us, which was a great honor. He's a legend in Japan. Wow. And he had 200,000 employees, and he took the time to come to Copenhagen to meet with us there. And we realized that we didn't want to sell. The founder wanted to sell. They have been a much better owner of the company that we could ever be. They have lots of technology and knowledge, and they're also long-term. And the founder, he's still employed in the company. He sold his shares. He got about 200 million euros, which was almost, this was a listed company, so it was very public. He had done lots of good things, helping others with that money, but he's still working as an employee without being a shareholder. And that's the kind of people we like, that he built the company. It's the best possible employer he can even think of. And now he doesn't own it, but he's still there helping out. So.
Okay, I'm going to start taking some questions. Adriana wanted to know, what is the major indicator for your success, you personally?
That's a very good question. No, we have defined our purpose, that we want to leave something behind that is in better shape than we took over. And that goes for the world around us, as this generation on planet Earth should leave something after us that is better. But it's also for the family business. And then we said, okay, what's in better shape? We should have more funds, more capital. So of course, financial success is important, but even more important is reputation and knowledge and skills. So we tend to look at, we tend to, when we evaluate how we're doing, and not look so like make a difference between outcome and process. So sometimes you do everything right. You take the right kind of bet and you work with, everything right. And then the outcome is not as you hoped for. And that can be okay if it was something that you were just unlucky or something happened that you couldn't predict. COVID came or something like that. Sometimes you're lucky, so you get 10x or like a really good return, but that was just luck and not really just happened to be in the right place in the right time. And so we try to evaluate ourselves on how we're doing, and what makes me happy is when someone recommends me. So if I get a inbound from someone who recommended me as an investor, it means that we did something right previously and so on. So I think we try to measure ourselves in how good we are at building that reputation and those relations, and of course in the how the companies are doing. And for a while it was kind of a conflict versus impact and financial success, and a lot of people think that impact investing is about doing good for the world and accepting lower returns, while we think it's the opposite. If you solve big problems, you can really build a big company, and you can have great financial returns as well. And actually, if you do that, if you have a profitable business model, you can grow without external capital. You can grow from your own profits, and then you can make an even bigger impact. So it all comes together. Not all problems can be solved that way, but a lot of problems can be solved that way, and we are looking for the ones that can. So financial success is also important, but the best thing is like if we do our homework, we do investment, and things play out. It never plays out as we thought. There are always surprises along the way. But in general, and if we can keep a good relationship with the founders, even if things go south and we have hard times and struggle a little bit, then we also think we're successful.
Can you? I don't know if you're able to. Maybe it never happened, but what was the most unsuccessful investment that you did, and what was there a specific reason that happened?
Yeah, there are many. I can see one that I recently came to mind because blockchain and Bitcoin has become so hot right now. Is an investment we did in KNC Miner back in 2014, maybe, I don't know, and it was kind of a company that had the potential to be the Bitcoin bank of the world, and we had to make our minds in just a few days, and it was €2 million ticket or something. And that time it was a lot of money for me, and we did our analysis, and then we invested, and then it went bankrupt. So we lost all the money in a relatively short time, in a year or so. And just before, there also were going to be a shift in the Bitcoin. There are certain rules, and just a few weeks before, there was a change where the amount of Bitcoins given up to the transaction partners were cut in half. They closed down the business, and there are so many things in that. It was a winner takes it all scenario, and it was an arms race. And in the end, this company lost out to Chinese people putting computers on the network that didn't make sense. They probably lost money because they got free energy somehow because they couldn't make money if they had to pay for the energy. And so it was an arms race. I don't like that kind of winner takes it all businesses. I like businesses where if you build a strong culture and have a good product, you will create a good company and it will be valued. It will be valuable. Maybe not the global leader, but it will be a great company to work for and have customers that are happy. And then it was fear of missing out. We had just a few days to do it. And there were so many mistakes with it. But it was a good lesson.
And specifically, why is it that we've been doing events often in the Nordics, particularly in Sweden, and everybody has this perception, the Nordics, that's like another continent. That's like, Africa. It's like so far away. No, it's a really short flight. It's not that far. So why is it that perception? At the same time, you have so much innovation and so many successful Swedish companies and Nordic companies happening there. What is it about the culture there that stimulates entrepreneurship, but also investment and innovation? I mean, Spotify, Northvolt, Gullspång, the many. So what is it? What is in the water over there that creates this? But at the same time, I still speak to lots of investors. Oh, wow, that's so far away. We never get up to the Nordics.
It is far away. I don't know. You tell me, and there are people who are, doing a lot more research on this than I have. But something happened in the mid 19th century. We were a really poor country, and a third of the population left for the US.
Wow, really?
Yes, we had starvation. We had a few years in the 1860s that went really terribly wrong. So a lot of people left. Then there was a lot of innovation in the second half of the 19th century that led up to, Alfred Nobel and the Nobel Prize. He was one of the most wealthy men in Europe when he died in 1896. And then you have Ericsson, a lot of companies that are now global leaders in what they do. I don't know why that happened and why, technology became ubiquitous in Sweden. And maybe it's the cold winters. We stay indoors and, work on innovations. I don't know. Or it's because we trust each other and we are really collaborating, which might be actually the secret sauce. It's the kind of the flip side of the law of Jante that you might have heard of, that no one is allowed to be special. The nail that sticks out gets hammered down. But the good, the other side is that, since we feel we are equal, we are good at collaborating and feeling, a sense of common purpose and work together.
That law of Jante or Jantelagen, that idea of not boasting.
Yes.
I think that it would be a good idea if they kind of adjust that a little bit, because the ones that are doing the most are talking the least, and the ones doing the least are talking the most. So unfortunately, people chase the press releases when there's nothing there, where there's something concrete, particularly as we've seen personally in the Nordics. I know it'll be quite...
It can be stated as you shouldn't think you're special. And I think law of Jante 2.0 is you shouldn't think you're the only one who's special. It's a much better way of, slightly twisted, totally different meaning. Yeah. You should be proud of what you're doing. And if you have something to contribute with, you should do that. And if that brings you success, that's great. And other people can be successful. You don't have to compete and you can help each other and so on. So...
Okay, yeah. I'm going to take a couple more questions. We don't worry, we end on time. Rick wanted to know, do you allocate in honeybee sanctuaries?
Like real honeybees?
Yeah.
No, we don't. No.
And
that's a specific question. The answer is no.
Do you fund initiatives to research on nutrition improvements from new plant varieties?
We are like our model is to be capitalists. So we think a lot of people in the environmental movement are like watermelons, green on the outside and red on the inside, all the way in, which I sympathize with quite a bit from the left. And I think there's a problem with too much gaps in income and so on, which is a paradox since I'm one of the 1%. But we really try to. I've seen so many entrepreneurs, they build successful companies, and then when they're old, they try to do good. So then they turn into, only giving the money away. So they work really hard to build companies, and then they work really hard to give the money away. Yeah. We try to combine this. We try to work really hard to build companies that make a lot of money, so we can help more entrepreneurs to build companies and make a lot of money and so on. Try to get this, combine it. So we haven't been really good at giving money away. What we've done now is we have a partnership with Stockholm Resilience Center that will be announced soon, where we fund their research. We can't control it in any way, but it's for they're going to do research and it's for the world to benefit from it. But we can benefit from what we're doing there, and it's related to food system and exactly how we are thinking about finding these change agents for paradigm shifts. So we're doing that. But we try to keep it really connected to things we can use when we work as investors. Then I'm a happy taxpayer, and then I think there's should be research grants and we need money that is not part of the capitalistic system that goes to really good things as well. But we don't have foundations or anything like that at the moment that give away money.
No, TBLI has always focused on changing the mindset of investors, because the philanthropic model is using only 5% of the capital, which is subsidized by taxpayers. I mean, that model offers scale. It's important, but we focus mainly on
we need a complement to that, definitely. And I mean, if you don't change capitalism and the finance system, we will never get to sustainability. I tend to say we try to be green on the outside, caring for the planet, and then green as dollars on the inside. And and I think you're one of the thought leaders, and early on realizing this, that big corporations are actually not evil. They're usually immoral, so they do their stuff, and if it happens to damage the planet, often they don't dare to change, because that will hurt their if they're listed on a stock exchange. And then you need to find a better paradigm and challenge them, but they're immoral, not evil, and sometimes they are the vehicles of change. So, for example, Stockholm Resilience Center works with the biggest fishing corporations in the world. And if like 10 biggest, that they also realize that if we kill all the fish in the oceans, we are out of business. So they also have a self-interest in regulating, and and Seaspiracy is a terrible movie, but a lot of the things in the movie is actually not true, because the industry is better than that. I don't say they're perfect. There are lots and lots of problems in the fishing industry, but at least the big corporations can be used as a vehicle for change. And if you have 10 big corporations that do changes, things happen. If you have 500,000 or 1 million fishermen going out in boats doing terrible stuff, it's really hard to change. So try to be pragmatic, but I agree that capitalism must be. I believe in free markets, but it has to be bounded so that it can't hurt the biosphere.
We've always focused on trying to engage mainly with irresponsible investors and criminals. I mean, when we started 25 years ago, there was no sustainable investment space. But I also found that it's actually quite easy to get behavioral change. That if you ask any asset owner, do you want a financial return and a social environmental added value? I've never had anybody say to me, no, I want all my money to make life miserable for everyone, and I'm working at that 24/7. So I agree with you. They're amoral. Yeah. And once they see the self-interest and the opportunity money flows, the behavioral change is not that hard.
No, of course, there are criminals and there are really bad evil companies, but I don't think that's they are edge cases, and the bad apples, not the system in itself.
Okay.
And then we have this fantastic tool for influencing behavior that is global. We don't have legislation where we can affect everyone in the world. We can't forbid Chinese people to do stuff if we live in Sweden and so on. But we have money, and everyone understands money, and it's kind of a currency that we can compare everything on the global on the earth with money. So if we make all the bad stuff expensive and all the good stuff cheap, there will be a behavioral shift. So we should use that tool. But then, of course, that needs a lot of regulations, and I would like to reform the tax system totally if I could, and so on. And that will take a lot of time. We can't wait for that. So,
Safar wanted to know: are you looking for other investors in your new vehicle?
We have the investors we want.
Okay.
We have. We are open for really good entrepreneurs that have a good network, and then the tickets can be quite small, but then we want to get to know them. But you can always reach out and we can discuss.
Let's see. Cecile wanted to know, very interesting, will RE Food only invest in disruptive companies, or will it invest in establishing companies transforming themselves and helping accelerate the transition? For instance, in the protein shift, how would you look at a company producing chicken products responsibly, given white meat protein has a much better environmental healthy profile than red meat?
Yeah, chicken meat is good, and unfortunately I don't eat it because I know how it's produced. Of course, it's not the chicken that's the problem, it's the chicken factories. So if you do it very responsible, a small farm, and let them have good lives, that's I think it should be a part of the food system going forward. We don't invest in those companies because I think the real leverage for change is to replace not working with the high end chicken meat, but replacing the low end. And consumers, they don't. Yeah. If you go to McDonald's and eat a burger, it's not important that a cow suffered for you to have a good meal. You don't think about it. And there's a disconnect between the consumer and the producer. And some people think it's a problem. And in a sense it is. If you live in a city, you don't understand how the food got there. You don't really value it. But it's also an advantage because you can actually replace the patty in the middle with something that wasn't alive, wasn't a living animal. So no, we work with plant-based chicken, plant-based cheese, plant-based milk, those kinds. But it's really good if other people work with improving the lives of animals that serve as food for humans, and I see nothing wrong in that if the animals have a good life and a good kind of good death if they're not suffer.
Final question, because we're coming toward the end. John from California, John Dennison, was wondering, what would you say is the number one impediment in the transformation of the food and ag system?
I think that the things that do the most damage are really good things, really good stuff. Plastic is, it's a revolutionary material. It's so fantastic. So you don't want to, it's not so easy to replace the packaging with other stuff. And, cheap meat is great. And sugar, it's the best ingredient ever. It's really cheap, tastes great. It preserves the food and so on. So I think that's we don't want to go back. And we can blame the big companies and the systems that have been built and how they destroy the planet. But if you go back 150 years, most people in the world were really poor and had poor lives and died of diseases. And, we don't want to go back there. We want to go forward. So I think that's the hardest things.
And what can the ones that are watching this live and that will watch it on YouTube live stream and the replay, what can they do to help you? I know it's a kind of unusual question. It seems you got everything, but sometimes little things can also help.
No, but connect us to great entrepreneurs with transformative technology. We are looking for the Davids. They can be, of course, female as well, and but David and Goliath. everyone has heard that story. And like people like David is really the change makers. And if you look at the story, like the traditional version of the story is that God intervened and made this small boy defeat this big warrior. And you can't do that if you don't get help, divine help. But then Malcolm Gladwell has popularized another version of the story. If you look at the situation with another glasses, you see one person with superior technology, a slingshot that can kill from a distance. So if you're not trained, you will see a small boy that will certainly get killed. But if you have the right glasses, you see this, very daring young boy that knows he's going to win, and that's why he dares to pick the fight. And we want people with that mindset that really think they can change the world and have, I used to say megalomania, create something big, and they want, like, really need to be obsessed with solving the problem, not by building a big company and become rich, but really solve a big problem and then have the skills and technology and everything you need to do that. And please send them our way, because they are very rare. It's not easy to find, but once you do that, they can really change the world.
Okay, thank you so much. We're going in about an hour and a half. The replay of this interview will be available, and we will send out a link to everyone, and I'll send the link to your organization. So if people want to follow up, I would like to take a group selfie with everyone. So if you just wave to the camera, we will send you a copy of this this group selfie. And thank you, Gustaf, so much for this. This is really fantastic. I also want to thank our entire production crew, Sam, our producer, Crypto Genius, and ramen critic, Ricky, my absolute better half with no filter. And she actually, in your honor, Gustaf, she made Swedish knäckebröd today. I want to thank Xi Jinping, our head of transparency and integrity, Donald Trump, our gender diversity lead and dog whisperer, Vladimir Putin, our head of conflict resolution, Jeff Bezos, our phallic symbol designer and space explorer, Richard Branson, our low carbon transportation genius, Elon Musk, our humility coach. Thank you all very, very much for coming. Thank you, Gustaf, for doing what you're doing. The networking will start immediately after you exit. So thank you so much, and and anything we can do to help you, please let us know. And thank everybody else for coming. So I'm going to end the group selfie. I'll wait a couple of seconds, and good luck to you. Stay well, Gustaf.
Thanks so much for having me. Thanks.
My pleasure. Stay well.
Thanks.
Bye. Okay, so everyone stay, because I will start the the group, the networking. So let's see here. Okay. Stay well. And then this. Okay.